80s heat, 80s heat, friendship, laughs, and camaraderie.
Well, you know what? Let's dive into it.
Yep, let's do it.
We are going to give a little breakdown. We'll go like 3, 2, 1. We'll do round table of our
Top
favorite three video games of all
Start with the
time.
third?
Let's start with number 1 and lower the climax as we go, Jake. It's great psychology.
Climax.
Dixon climax. Oh man. So, number 3 video game of all time. Let's start with Jacob Montgomery.
Does it have to be 80s?
Yeah, I think it
Or
should
is it
be.
just
Well,
of all time?
I when I planned,
Yep.
I went 80s. But I mean, we've got
I
a
planned for 80s.
we've got a display here. I mean, if Mario 64 is within your heart, like fill your boots, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there's definitely like I had a specific honorable mention.
Yeah.
That I was going to throw in that wasn't 80s.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
Well, we'll do what you want. I've got both, by the way. I've got my three of all
that's fine. That's
time
fine.
and my 3 80s.
That's fine. Let's start with
Okay,
the big man,
number
big dog,
3,
Jacob Montgomery.
My number 3 was Blades of Steel, the
Respect.
hockey game, and I spent so many hours playing that game, and it was simple to play. I gave you my rant a couple podcasts ago about how complex and complicated controllers have got nowadays, and I tried playing a current day hockey NHL game with my boy a couple months ago, and I was just a total disaster because it is so complicated now, and I'm not even going to get
It's too
into it,
complicated.
But it was great. Blades of Steel, if you wanted to get into a fight, you just ram up against the guy a couple times. You just skate up to him and go boom, boom, boom. And then all of a sudden you're throwing fists.
Yep.
Yeah, it's nice and easy. Throwing fists. And it was just such a good game. It was so easy to play. That's my number 3.
And when you'd score a goal, everybody would gather around you and be like,
Yeah.
But the one thing that drove me crazy about that game, and I remember that game, it wasn't licensed because back then, some of these games weren't even licensed by the National Hockey League, so they couldn't say Edmonton Oilers. You'd just be called Edmonton, and Edmonton was green, and that just pissed me off because it's like red on green. That was a great game. Hartford Whalers, or
And the reason I brought that up is
still
because
hasn't gotten to the game.
They had the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game, and you could have 4 players playing at one time. I don't know if you remember that game.
Was that the Turtles in Time one?
I don't know. what
Have you
the specific
segued
title
to a
is.
completely different game?
No. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game, not this one sitting here.
Was April O'Neil undressing?
No, yeah.
I'd
No,
pay
I-
to see that.
There was none of
This
that.
is the second game you're talking
No,
about.
I'm talking
The
about
same
my
time.
second game. The porn game wasn't my second.
Oh, okay.
No, thanks for prefacing that, Jake.
That was a good game, but it wasn't my second pick. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game, is my second pick.
Respect.
And
pretty
I
solid.
love that game
Yeah.
because you could play it, and it was a good bonding experience with other kids. So you and your buddy would be sitting there, and you'd pick 2 of the turtles, and then some other nerdy kid would come up, and he'd look at you, and he was like, "Gonna play?" You'd just kind of give him the wink, and like, get on it.
Well, he's an
buddy.
asset. You
And
can take
he's
on
an
more
asset.
foot
He's
soldiers.
helping
Yep.
you. So it was an amazing bonding game, and you would meet kids just by playing a game like that. And it was a very difficult game.
It was.
But
Yep.
it was amazing. I've got great experiences of that, which reminds me of Magic Land with the creepy old guy that had the porn video games in the back. The more I talk about it, the more I think this guy's probably like running a sex den or something.
And he was clearly hunchback. So, okay,
So
Jacob,
yeah,
who is your turtle of choice?
Donatello
Respect.
every
Yeah.
single time.
He had good range.
He had good range.
Yeah.
And going back to the original game, I think every kid picked Donatello.
Well,
No one picked
Raphael, yeah.
Size.
I used to, and his had Raphael's in that game are the shortest range because they had the little size, but they were the most powerful. Like they caused the most damage. But
Did they?
but I think so. Yeah. Fact check me. I don't know.
Maybe in Hero Turtles.
I didn't-
Hero Turtles.
yeah.
Maybe the British Hero
Yeah,
Turtles.
like that Donatello was well hung and had good reach,
But
but
I-
Raphael he was working with not as much,
No.
and he wasn't a grower either, nor was he a shower. He was just so my favorite game, and I spent holy cow probably like half of my freaking childhood playing this one game. It's Final Fantasy, the original game, Final Fantasy. It's kind of a role playing game, and that's one where you start the game and you get to pick 4 characters. You can pick the fighter, the thief, you can do a black wizard that casts spells that hurt people, and you pick a healer, whatever. Like there's a whole bunch of different options that you can pick.
Now, is this I don't want to mess this up like last week. When you say a black wizard, do you mean like a dark warrior or of the ethnicity?
No, it wasn't an African American wizard.
Okay.
It was just that he wore black stuff and his magic would cause damage. He wasn't a healer.
Mm-hmm.
But this game, and did you guys ever play this game?
Yeah,
you might not have.
Which system were you playing on? The NES.
The original.
I've never played a Final Fantasy game in my life.
Nope. Well, it's a turn-based game.
I've only ever played the original.
It's a turn-based game. So, like when you look at it now, it seems pretty ridiculous because you would pick like what everybody was going to do, and then they'd all take turns. And so, if you picked that your fighter was going to hit the guy with the sword, then he'd move forward, he'd step forward, and go bop, 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 and then it would just randomly, based on the sword that he had, say how much damage the guy took. So I'm getting dangerously close to like fucking Dungeons and Dragons or whatever, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
The battles were based off of that turn-based strategy, and I loved it at the time, but combat has definitely evolved since then. And those turn-based strategy games, I don't even know if they exist anymore. Probably not, because it's all Call of Duty now. But I spent a good chunk of my years playing that game.
It's a Final Fantasy.
Final
You're
Fantasy
number
my top
1.
game.
Wow.
Play.
Okay.
Play.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming, but yeah, cool.
Friendship, lots and camaraderie.